everybody, and welcome to the second edition of the Cover 4 podcast. I'm Jim Trickett, and with me, the brains of the operation, the man with the crimson colored glasses, Randy Gibson. And Randy, I think everything is pretty good looking at for this ball game coming up Saturday between Arkansas and BYU.
Oh man, I will tell you, everybody out here in Provo very excited to be traveling over to Arkansas and hitting Fayetteville and the stadium over there, and it's going to be fun. I'm actually flying into Tulsa in the middle of that game. Be there later on in the evening. I wish I could be two or three places at once. I'd like to be over across town at the Oklahoma-Tulsa game, but man, would I love to be in Fayetteville for that BYU-Arkansas game. That's going to be really fun.
It will. That is going to be. And I've got the ball game. I found out about noon that I'm going to be working the ball game. It's on ESPN2 on Saturday night. That's DirecTV 209. You're coming into Tulsa. I would say either try 97.1, the Sports Animal. I think they picked up Arkansas last year. I think they told me that at the PGA last year that they were picking up Arkansas. If not, use the Varsity Sports app and you can pick up the game with either the BYU guys or listen to Chuck Barrett, Quinn Grovey, and Geno Bell, who's the sideline reporter for Arkansas. You can listen to the game that way.
You know, it's going to be a really good one, and thanks for letting our listeners know the different places they can pick that one up too. I'm telling you, this is going to be a really good game. This is going to be BYU's first real test of this year, their first real test, even though Arkansas is in the SEC, BYU's in the Big 12. It's going to be interesting to see how they can handle this one. And the thing with BYU, and I can tell you right now, Jim, BYU is going to have a crowd over there in Fayetteville.
Yeah, they've got Delta fixed up some direct flights out of Salt Lake, which living in Provo, that Salt Lake is the western hub for Delta. They're flying directly from Salt Lake to Northwest Arkansas now Northwest Arkansas National Airport in Bentonville. Really in Highfield is where it's really located, but it's between Bentonville and Rogers. So they can get on the bypass, get on the Interstate 49 and come straight down to Razorback Stadium. So it'll be a good to see what type of crowd. I'm expecting sections 110 and 111, where the visitor side's at, to be full of blue and white come Saturday night.
It will be. There's a lot of BYU fans around that part of Arkansas and Oklahoma anyway. And with that Delta special, like you mentioned, I can tell you that there's a lot of folks here that were excited and they're planning on leaving on that flight and headed there for the game. It's going to be a fun night. It really is.
Yeah, it will. The game's 6:30, as said. Brian Custer, Rod Gilmore, and Lauren Sisler are going to be handling the broadcast. Lauren's going to be the sideline reporter. She is a graduate of Rutgers. She was a gymnast. And if you see her online, go to her Instagram page. She's known for in the pregame doing, as she calls it, the sideline shuffle. And she has done 2 ball games this year since becoming a mom. She got
oh wow.
She had a little baby boy named Mason. He's 2 months old, and her first game was at SMU, and then last week she was at Virginia Tech, and Mason made his first ball game with her. She had him in her arms and he got to do his first sideline shuffle last Saturday. So,
Lots of
but I'm going to have to, if I happen to see her when I check in, I get there 3 hours prior to the ball game and get on the first shuttle bus up to Gate 1, which is the southwest corner of Donald W. Reynolds Razorback Stadium. Have to walk over to the production truck that's in the southeast corner of the stadium. If I happen to see her, we might have to say, warning, you might have to watch out, not for Big Red or Sue E. That's the two Arkansas mascots. Sue E is the Lady Razorback mascot. But there's a certain mascot that you have become fond of, better than
oh
Boomer and Sooner.
man, I'll tell you. And I know you're looking forward to seeing this guy on the sidelines as well. And he is quite a showman. We're talking about Cosmo the Cougar that's going to be in Fayetteville Saturday night. And Jim, I just want to share. I got something. Cosmo is quickly becoming the favorite mascot of the Big 12 over Bevo, over Boomer and Sooner, my precious horses. This guy is phenomenal. I don't know if any of our listeners or watchers have ever had the chance to see Cosmo perform, but he is absolutely amazing. In fact, I pulled up a little clip just to kind of show. He dances with the dance team, the Cougarettes, at the start of the fourth quarter. It's kind of a thing at the BYU games out here for the home games. But he does some incredible things on the sidelines. Cosmo is somebody that he does stunts. He jumps off of high dives into pools on the sidelines out here. He plays the drums whenever he's out here. He's just amazing. He's in the parades. I mean, everybody out here loves Cosmo.
Should be a real good ball game. Both teams 2-0, and for Arkansas, they will not have Rocket Sanders again this week. He hurt his knee in the game against Western Carolina. Did not play last week. Not playing this week either. It's a swollen knee. They're trying to get it down and hopefully have him ready for the gauntlet that the Razorbacks have got coming up on the next 4 weeks away from Donald W. Reynolds Razorback Stadium. They face LSU, and just found out yesterday it's going to be a Louisiana Saturday night, 6:30 kickoff at Tiger Stadium in, as they call it, Death Valley. Then the next week at Jerry's Place against A&M, then go to the Grove to take on Ole Miss, and then finish it off with a trip to Tuscaloosa against Alabama. So that's a tough 4-game stretch. They come home, play Mississippi State, get a week off after that game, then have their final road trip, and they got to go to the Swamp.
Of course, that SEC schedule is brutal for any of the SEC teams.
Yeah. And
every year.
You've seen the schedule for next year for OU, and it's
yeah,
it's not pretty.
No, we got Nick Saban and Josh Heupel both coming to town next year in Norman,
and Shane Beamer.
Yep.
So
yep, going to be a tough one. Going to be a tough one for Arkansas this year.
Tulsa Saturday night at, I still call it Skelly Stadium, called H.A. Chapman Stadium now, but if I didn't have Arkansas, I wouldn't mind being there. Give you a story. When I was born in Tulsa, we lived across the street from Skelly Stadium, Caddy corner from the southwest corner of the stadium. And we lived in a white duplex at the corner of 11th and Florence. But there was a building that was in front of the duplex. It was known as the Pizza Palace. That's what it was called, start off with. Later became Ken's Pizza, now Mazzio. The guy who owned it, Northeastern State University graduate and a Hall of Fame member, Ken Selby.
How fun.
Yeah. And Dad would be on the Tulsa Lennon route, and he would be worried about Mom and me. And Ken told him, said, "Hey, I'm here at night making dough. Don't worry about them. I'll watch after them." So he did. And that was back, when 11th Street, was then known as Route 66.
Right. Lots of traffic.
Right.
Talking about OU Tulsa, Oklahoma, they had kind of which those who are really kind of in the know, and they knew SMU was a good team. And everybody said, the fans with the crimson colored glasses thought it was going to be a blowout, just like Arkansas State. But everybody kind of on the inside kept saying SMU's offense is going to be, without a doubt, the best offense of the non-conference schedule.
Yeah.
No question.
In the words of the great Lee Corso, not so fast, my friends.
That's right. And so what do you think about Oklahoma's defense? Danny Stutman, man, that guy was all over the field.
They played well, stopping the SMU offense and holding them to 11 points, which essentially a field goal to touchdown and 2-point conversion. You got to say hats off to the OU defense for doing a pretty good job against an SMU ball club that's going to be a contender in the American Conference, which is the same conference that Tulsa's in.
Right. Exactly.
And TU went out to Washington, played the Huskies at Husky Stadium. That was, as I call it, a gate game for TU. That was, don't know how much they got for that game, but they are in deep trouble coming into the ball game Saturday night. They lost their number 1 quarterback in the game in the home opener. Then they lost their number 2 out there. So they're in their 3rd string quarterback facing OU. And so it could be ugly come Saturday night.
It could get really ugly. Oklahoma's defense much improved over the last few years already. Peyton Bowen, freshman, coming in, highly recruited, a real find for Oklahoma. He's already playing. He played wonderful against SMU. He was the kid with the block punt, which found out after the game, he actually wasn't supposed to do that on that particular play. So I guess it's a good thing it worked. It kind of reminds me of against Texas several years ago with Roy Williams, who earned the nickname Superman whenever he didn't get the play call that was changed at the last second. And he jumped over the Texas line and rushed Chris Sims and caused the fumble, which, of course, Oklahoma sealed that win with a scoop and score then. But Peyton Bowen blocked that punt. Freshman, they've got some really good freshmen, sophomores on that defensive line. Brent Venables has done a wonderful job in trying to beef up that Oklahoma offensive line, the defensive line from what it was in the past few years.
Yeah, and that was sorely needed because when they get in the SEC next year, it's a whole different ballgame playing the Big 12.
Yeah. I do want to say, talking about the defense, now SMU went down and scored a touchdown. And Jim, you may find this funny. It was due to a penalty on Brent Venables himself. He always had a get back guy whenever he was defensive coordinator, both at Oklahoma and Clemson, who would hold him back off the field. Well, he hadn't had one since he's been head coach at Oklahoma, but he may want to think about getting one again. That penalty was on him that wound up leading to a first down, which in turn gave SMU that touchdown.
Yeah.
But
I've been a penalty recorder when I was here at Northeastern when Kenny Evans was the coach. Okay, and you had get back coaches and you get a sideline warning, and it's put down on the penalty sheet.
Hmm.
And the next time you get it, uh, it's 15 yards.
Well, the funny thing about this one, it's we can laugh about it now because we won the game, but there was no warning. It was just a penalty right then, 15-yard penalty, no warning
Okay,
given to Brent.
I
And
know why, because there was contact with the
exactly,
official. That's the
exactly, the
reason why
official.
that happened here at Northeastern with one of the coaches when Kenny was coaching. It cost us a touchdown on an interception, and
Well,
he got in the way of either the line judge or the field judge, and the flag comes out, and that was the call, uh, sideline uh, uh, infraction against Northeastern, brought the ball back to the spot of the foul and 15 yards from there. So, yeah.
yeah, it was really well. The funny thing, uh, you'll like this, Jim. Yesterday at practice, Brent Venables punished himself for getting that penalty.
Uh huh.
He did 100 burpees himself
Oh, wow.
while at practice yesterday. That was a punishment for getting that sideline penalty.
Uh huh.
So had have to salute his tenacity and his leadership there, because you know that it wouldn't have been kind to the players yesterday at practice if one of them had gotten that penalty.
Right.
So
And,
he did it himself.
yeah, and the players have to respect that.
They do,
Hmm.
and I'm sure they do, which is why all the players really love Coach V.
Hmm. The had an incident after the ball game, which you and I both think it's a non-story. Uh, the offense coordinator there at OU,
Mhm.
his father-in-law is Art Briles,
Right.
former head coach at Baylor, and he was on the field because uh, the offense coordinator at OU is married to his daughter,
Correct.
and wanted to see him, his daughter, and the two grandkids, his two granddaughters. And somebody has made a mountain out of a molehill, and I tweeted that to Mark Rogers, who's one of the uh, guys who covers OU down there in Norman,
Hmm.
and Mark agrees with us. It should be a non-story. I mean, the guy has paid his penalty, and yet the Sooner fans got extremely bent out of shape over this.
Yeah, I was really surprised and shocked at the reaction from a lot of Sooner fans. What was interesting, though, Jim, I followed the story in several places. The fans on Twitter were brutal, they were
Mhm.
vicious. The ones on Facebook were like, why is this even a story? You
Yeah.
know, in fact, um, they were really pulling for Coach Levy. Here was the deal. Art Briles, of course, he was caught up in the Baylor scandal, which was about 10 years ago now.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
been quite a ways back. Um, some bad things happened, but when it all come down to it, uh, Art Briles, become the fall guy, lost his job at Baylor. Um, name drug absolutely through the mud, as and still is apparently. Maybe not some wise decisions were made during that time, but in the end, Baylor wound up having to pay him $15 million after the fact. NCAA found that Coach Briles had no wrongdoing whatsoever. um, Art was on the sidelines with his family, his daughter and grandkids, and his son-in-law. along with the families of other coaches at OU, way after the game was over.
Hmm.
And I just didn't see a problem with it at all.
No,
A kid named Parker Thune uh, was the one who first put it out, had a sideline pass, photographer down there, um, just really trying to make something out of nothing, in my
hmm
opinion.
no,
There's just no, I mean, the man was found without guilt.
right.
And it's really sad that we've gotten in a nation where you're guilty until proven innocent. And even after you're proven innocent, you're still going to be guilty in the eyes of some.
Yeah, and that's going to be something that he may wind up saying the heck with it at mid-season and leave OU in a lurch. And who
That's
would
what
blame him?
as much as I love Oklahoma, uh, I couldn't blame him. I
Yeah.
mean, being on the inside at Oklahoma, I don't care if it's part of one of the sports and the athletic department, if it's the cheer squad, the Roughnecks, the band, it doesn't matter. At Oklahoma, we preach family. Everything is about family, 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 family. We do it in the band, choir does it, the cheerleaders do it, the Palm Squad does it, the Roughnecks do it. Everybody, it's OU, it's the Sooner family. Well, you're throwing that in the face of this guy who's saying, well, we don't want your father in law down here with his grandkids and your children and your wife, who's his daughter, because of something that happened that he was found guiltless for that happened over 10 years ago at another university. I don't think it
Hmm.
sets a good impression. And if I was Coach Levy, I hope he doesn't leave. I hope he stays. Um, I feel like he's doing a good job at rebuilding. It was going to be hard to replace Lincoln Riley as far as offensive coordinator, but I think he's done a fine job with Dylan Gabriel. Getting Jackson Arnold has been fantastic. Um, and I think a lot of these Sooner fans who are, really upset about this need to back off a little bit and be careful what they wish for.
Hmm. Yep. And we'll just have to see what happens. It's I'll put it this way, and I told you this, okay, or I told Mark this. Um, if he had been at Arkansas to go see Kendall Browse, his son, who was the offense coordinator till this year, now he's down at TCU.
Hmm.
Okay, did Sam have a problem with it? Did Hunter Yurachek, the AD, did they have a problem with it? No. Uh, I don't think the Arkansas media would have known Art Briles from Adam because Arkansas didn't play Baylor year in, year out like OU did. So
Hmm.
the media at OU, they saw him, and that's what opened the can of worms up.
It seemed like what you had, in my opinion, you had a young guy that's trying to make a name for himself who covers
Mm-hmm.
Oklahoma sports. And I think on one, I said, you got this wannabe Woodward and Bernstein who's trying to break open some big story that's not there.
Mm-hmm.
And he's really, I don't know if, in my opinion, this is me with my crimson colored glasses on. If I was Joe C, I would be taking away that kid's sideline pass for causing a big firestorm that didn't need to be, um, just in trying to make a name for himself. That's my opinion, and I will own it. But I mean, Art's son, of course, he's going to be coming into Norman, and as a coach, are we going to tell him he can't be on the sideline either? I mean, you know, part of the problem they said was, well, Bryles was wearing an OU shirt. Well, my goodness, he's at an OU game as son-in-law offensive coordinator for Oklahoma. I wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
expect him to be wearing anything else
Right.
but an OU shirt.
Yep.
And how many fans, how many people, how many students, how many cheer band roughnecks? I mean, I was there. Uh, you know, it was several years ago, but I can tell you, I could tell you some kind of off the wall stories that happened within the different groups on campus back in the
Mhm.
1980s. How many
Yep.
of us still get to go up and down that sideline
Yep.
at
That's
certain
right.
times?
You'll be marching it when the with the band at homecoming. I know that
Okay. Yep.
with
Yep.
the alumni band.
Yep.
So
And I love all my band peeps,
yep.
but I know there were some of them back in the day that kind of did some things that maybe wouldn't be stood for today. I'll just
Yep.
leave it at that.
Yep. Leave it at that.
And they're
Other
going to
ball
be there,
games.
and they're going to be marching on that field
Yep. That's
come
right.
homecoming.
Yep. Uh, the other team, the other Big Four team, OSU, home against South Alabama, and they are still in the three quarterback system. They'll probably use this game to figure out who in the world is going to be their quarterback when they open up the conference next week.
Man, I got to tell you, I'm still. It's going to be interesting. Um, I think it's a big competition
It is.
over there in
It really
Stillwater.
is. Uh, we were talking about it yesterday at the golf course, and talked with Jeff Jarrett, who's now the course superintendent out there, and kind of like him, uh, Gunner may be number one.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. A lot of people are going to probably hit on Mike Gundy a little bit if he puts Gunner in at QB1. But when you just take the name Gundy out of the equation and put in player X, player Y, player Z, whichever one Gunner Gundy is, I would have to put him at QB1 at this point.
Yeah, and we'll find out more come Saturday night there in Norman, in Stillwater. Now, the ball game that interests a lot of people around here in Tahlequah, the Redmond back home, they played a lot better. I went to the quarterback club meeting yesterday here in Tahlequah with JJ and down at Emery's Grill here in Tahlequah, and the guys played a lot better at Kearney. Got beat 31-17, but it was 24-17 in the fourth quarter. Couldn't stop them from scoring to make it 31-17. Had their chances to tie the game in several places. In fact, probably had a chance to take the lead, but missed on some passes by 6 inches or less. So, but they've got Emporia State coming to town, and you got to worry. They're 2-0. They started with essentially the weak sister of the conference, which is Lincoln, out of Jefferson
Mm-hmm.
City. Then the news bulletin came down from Maryville. They walked in to Northwest Missouri, number 5 team in the country, and beat them like a drum. And I wonder if Northwest Missouri is down because they struggled for over 3 quarters against Missouri Southern, who
Yeah.
is the team that we see next week at Fred G. Hughes Stadium in Joplin. So the Emporia has a connection to Northeastern. Johnny Gleason is their quarterback. Played at Muldrow. While you were here in town working for the Nation, the name John Gleason may ring a bell. He
Mm-hmm.
was one of the offensive coaches when Brent Scott, who we call Bear, was the
Mm-hmm.
head coach. John
Right.
went to Westville, became head coach over there, had to resign. And unfortunately, John passed away here a little over 10 years ago due to brain cancer. And this is his son, Johnny, who is the quarterback for Emporia. He's a left-handed quarterback, uh, played for Muldrow. His mom played here at Northeastern, and John did too, his dad. Uh, if you remember the name Angela Pruitt,
Yep.
played basketball. She was a point guard for the Lady Reds.
Right.
Uh, that's her boy. That is the quarterback of the Hornets. So he'll be coming into town Saturday night, 6 o'clock, up at Doc Wadley and Gable Field. It's legacy. It's the legacy game. The guys who are still with us from that 1958 national championship team, they're going to be honored at the end of the opening quarter. And then the 69 team and the 2000 team are going to be honored at halftime. So be good. It's good that JJ's bringing everybody back to come and watch. They, like I say, they play Emporia Saturday, go to Missouri Southern, short drive up to Joplin next week. That's the shortest road trip that they have other than going to UCO, and then face the Gorillas for homecoming, face Pitt State for homecoming.
Pitt State coming back. Yep, September 30th homecoming game.
Yep, I'll miss that. I'll be in Rogers, Arkansas for the Walmart Northwest Arkansas Championship. That's the LPGA tournament over at Pinnacle. So I'm working it.
I will be back east in Oklahoma, back home that day, but I'll actually be in Norman for Oklahoma, Iowa State.
Mm-hmm. That's homecoming over there?
Homecoming's coming up in October down in Norman against Central Florida.
Okay, so you're going to make 2 trips to Norman.
I'll be making 2 trips.
Oh, okay.
Sure enough.
Turn the page and get to the high schools, and the Tigers 0-2 on the season, lost to the defending 4A state champion Wagner Bulldogs, but now they go for their final non-district test. They go to Perry Lattimore Stadium in Sallisaw and take on the Black Diamonds, and they have a new coach down there. Former Redmond punter and longtime head coach of his hometown Gore Pirates, Brandon Tyler, is now the head coach at Sallisaw. So let's see if the Tigers can get a win Friday night down there. And then they open the district next Friday night here at home against Putman City West.
That's going to be another tough one.
Not so fast. They're one of that's one of the 3 wins we had last year was PC West, and they've been down for quite a while.
That's interesting.
I think they're 1-1 right now, but they've been them and US Grant are the 2 weak teams that we have to play from out west. And the next year, the district's going to be a whole lot easier than what it is right now. Just to kind of give you an example, get to my trusty phone here, and the district next year for Tahlequah, they go down to 5A next year. Claremore, Collinsville, Grove, Memorial, Pryor, Rogers, and joining us from 6A2, better known as who are we? We is Booker T. So the Hornets join us in District 2 here on the east side of the state come next year. So
hey, fine. I kind of hear some more familiar names in that list.
Yeah, it's going to help the athletic program mainly because there'll be more cheeks in the seats on that east side than they are this year, because Putman City West they might bring 15 maybe.
Yeah,
same way with Grant was last year. Then Sequoyah is supposed to play Westfield Thursday night. Site, I think, still to be determined. There was a drone shot of Thompson
Field
on Sunday.
Yeah, saw the new field.
they only had the home sideline left to do. But the problem right now was, and Ricky Cavan has told me this at the bowling alley a few weeks ago, they hadn't gotten the new goalpost, and they were having to jackhammer the concrete off of the existing goalpost so they could
I wonder
install
what
it.
the holdup was. The field from that drone shot, the field looked pretty sharp. I thought it was pretty well
It's
ready to
sharp.
go.
It is sharp. I went out there and looked at it, but if you notice on that drone shot, the sideline on the north side, which is the home side, wasn't
Mm-hmm.
down yet, and so they were probably having to do that yesterday. And are they going to be able to put the rubber pellets down? We had 81 hundredths of an inch of rain last night.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it hadn't rained here in a month. And so might drive out there later on this afternoon to see if they're putting that down and possibly getting the goalpost in. If not, they're going to have to play Thursday night at Doc Wadley, or possibly move it to Westville. Don't know. I haven't talked to anybody at Sequoyah. I haven't talked to any of my connections at Westville to see if they're have moved the ball game or to Northeastern or possibly to Aiken Langley. Other two games in the county. Hulbert gets their first game at home. They take on Nowata, and Keys Cougars have got to go over to Kiefer and play them on Friday night before they open up their district. So it'll be
fun.
See what happens that way. So that's how high school looks.
Headed back to the college ranks. I want to get your thoughts on Colorado, Nebraska, Coach Prime, ESPN going to Boulder this coming Saturday. What do you think about that?
Hey, they deserve it. I mean, they had Big Noon Saturday last week, which is Fox's answer. But now to bring ESPN to Boulder, they're 2-0. They got their in-state rival from just up the road, Colorado State. They could be 3-0 going to Eugene.
Going to Eugene week after, next week.
Yeah,
taking on number 13 Oregon. That's going to turn out to be a pretty darn good ball game.
Yeah, and the thing I like about watching Oregon is when Oregon comes out, they've got the guy on the motorcycle, with the big full face helmet, and the duck is sitting right behind him on that Harley.
Yeah, that's always fun. I want to talk about Coach Prime for a second. They took a big chance in hiring him. They gave him his contract, didn't have the money in hand ready to give to him, but rolled the dice and went ahead and signed the contract with him. For the first time in over a decade, I think it's more closer to 15 years, the Colorado Stadium was a sellout. Tickets for Saturday going upwards of $400 a seat. And you think they got their money's worth?
In the words of my late friend, the dispatcher here at the police department, Willie Epps, you think?
I got to tell you, Jim, of course, Colorado, I guess they're coming back into the Big 12 after Oklahoma leaves, but that's an old Big 8 rivalry for me. So when I think of the Buffaloes, I think of the Oklahoma, Colorado, Nebraska, Colorado games, especially from the 80s, 90s, when all three of those teams in the Big 8 were really good.
Yes.
But I want to look at this schedule and kind of get your thoughts on this. So they've got, after this week, they've got number 13 Oregon, the way the rankings are this week. Number 13 Oregon coming up. Then number 5 USC. Then they play Arizona State, Stanford. Then number 24 UCLA. Then number 16 Oregon State. Then Arizona. Number 23 Washington State. Then number 12 Utah. They have got quite a schedule. But I'm going to throw the dice out on Coach Prime and say I look for 1 to 2 of those games to be a Colorado win.
I would not be surprised. Colorado may go 6-6 and be bowl eligible.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're 6-6 after what they went through the last 3, 4, 5 years
Several
out there
years,
in
yeah.
Boulder, I mean, Prime has got to be not only the last Pac-12 coach of the year, you've got to think of him for a national coach of the year
You do.
with what he has done.
You do. I got to tell you, as much as I love Oklahoma, as much as I love BYU, this year, watching this team, I'm quickly becoming a Colorado Buffalo fan as well. They're
Mm-hmm.
just fun.
Yeah.
These first 2 weeks, they've just been fun to watch. And I'm anxious to see them take on Oregon and USC. In fact, kind of that Oklahoma tie, I am really anxious to see what uh, what Sanders' prime son quarterback does against the Alex Grinch defense of USC.
Yes. That one that's going to be interesting. Let me take a look, see if they've put a time yet on that ball game against Southern Cal.
They have not.
Yeah, that's the 2 week 2 week thing. So
Yeah, and I think they're waiting to see what happens the next on the
oh,
23rd, the afternoon of the
don't
23rd.
say the dreaded 6-day advance. Oh, I hate that. My buddy Craig Way down in Texas, who's the broadcaster for the Longhorns, who I got to listen to. This is the nice thing about having my vehicle with Sirius XM. I got to put over on XM 199, which is one of the two Big 12 channels. And they were doing the Texas game. So I got to listen to Craig, Roger Wallace do the ball game. Yeah, that and to be determined. But the Oregon game, they announced it yesterday, is a 2:30 kickoff our time. So
Mm-hmm.
1:30 in Denver and Boulder, 12:30 out in Eugene.
Right.
So an early kickoff for them. Talk about. I know you don't want to talk about it, but what about Texas?
Oh
Going
man.
before 101,821 at Bryant Denny and beating them. That was the first time in 73 ball games that Bama had lost a lead going into the fourth quarter. They led going into the fourth quarter
I'll
and
tell
got
you,
outscored 21-8.
at Oklahoma, for the past, gosh, 7, 8, 9 years, we have laughed at Texas, saying, "Is Texas back? Is Texas back?" Everybody for years they've said, "Texas is back. Texas is back." And it went out. They came in with a bang, went out with a fizzle. But this year, after watching that game last week, I got to say, is Texas really back? The way they
Uh,
played Saturday night, they look like it.
yeah,
Sart had his team ready to go,
they did.
and I got to hand it to him. It's making me a little bit nervous for October 7th. I don't mind telling you.
Yeah. Also, there was some payback uh, with
With the band,
last year. Texas band director put the $1 million band up in the upper deck at DKR,
right?
and Alabama returned the favor.
They sure did.
But uh, the Bama fans didn't get to hear Rammer Jammer after the end of the ball game when Alabama wins. They had to hear Texas fight and the
They
eyes
hear
of
the eyes of
Texas.
Texas. way up there in the clouds. You could
Yeah,
hear the eyes of Texas coming
that was
down over the field.
yeah. It was that was something else. But we'll see what happens come Saturday with all these ball games. I'm looking forward to this BYU ball game. We're going to find out about both ball clubs. Now,
Sure are.
here's a tidbit. If Arkansas beats BYU, this will be the third year in a row that Sam starts the season 3-0. Sam Pittman, head coach of the Razorbacks, was coached by a former Tahlequah Tiger head coach when he was the head coach at Grove, Charlie Cooper.
Wow.
Charlie was his head coach at Grove. He had moved from down around the El Reno area, and his dad wanted him to have a little more exposure, moved to Grove, and Charlie said he was weighed about 205, 210 when he got there. He played fullback and linebacker for him. Went to an all-star game up at NEO. Pitt State saw him, signed him to a letter of intent, and the rest is history. 4 years at Pitt State, and you've seen where he's been as far as assistant coach and now the head coach at University of Arkansas.
Coach Arkansas.
I think we've pretty much covered everything, haven't we, Randy?
I think so for this week. Sure enough.
I think so too. And you can see this on the Facebook page, on my Facebook page. Randy will have it on his as well, and we'll have it on YouTube. And we'll do this again.
Let's do it again next week.
Next week, and you're going to be. When are you going to be in town?
Coming in to Tulsa Saturday night, so maybe next
Tuesday,
week we can record this
Monday,
live and in person.
Do this Monday and do this here. So
that'd be fun.
Yeah, it would be fun. So, all right, that's going to do it for the Cover 4 podcast for this week. Let us know what you think about the broadcast, the podcast that we have, and we'll talk about a few more things, talk about Big Four, the high schools, and Northeastern come next week here on the Cover 4 podcast. I'm Jim Trickett for my partner in crime, the man with the crimson colored glasses, the CEO of RDG Communications, Randy Gibson. I'm Jim Trickett. Thanks a lot for watching. We'll see you next week. So long.